Diligence make it for poor man rich, but slack hands be leaving my people stuck in a ditch. It's for my brothers with no jobs on the couch with the AC blasting, asking when this girl is coming home to get the keys to.
Shalom Israel, welcome back to the channel. Today's topic and lesson we're going to be covering is the Sabbath day, right? And why it's important to keep it holy. Now, if you're familiar with the commandments, then you know the fourth commandment is, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And so with that being said, the origins of the Sabbath dates back, all the way to the time of Genesis, the time of creation where, on the seventh day, the Lord rested from all creation. We're going to get that, so those are the things that, well, that's one of the things that we're going to cover today in this topic, is how to properly keep the Sabbath holy, right? So we're going to cover the origins, we're going to cover the regulations, and we also going to get an account of our forefathers on, how serious they were of keeping it. And yeah, so stay tuned. So, it's going to be a two-part lesson. I do have, historical references, but I want to put that in part two, just to, put more of the focus on, on that in that lesson. So it may be a tad bit shorter than what this will be. This is a 30-minute, video. With that being said, we're going to jump straight over to Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to read from verse 1 down to verse 3. And it says, um, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And so right here we see that the Most High, he rested on the seventh day. All right, we see that God rested on the seventh day, and verse 3 is going to tell us, what he did. It says, and blessed the seventh day. So, he blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, right? So he made it unto himself. And it says, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. So, that's the reason, or that's the origin of the Sabbath and how it had came about, is the Most High rested on the seventh day from all creation, right? And he blessed it and sanctified it. He made it unto himself. And yeah, so that's that, right? So we're gonna jump from there, and we're gonna get to Romans chapter 1. Where is it? Romans chapter 1 and verse 25. And so this is Romans chapter 1 verse 25. It says, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worship and serve the creature more than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. So one thing that we need to, keep in mind is that the Most High ordained that the Sabbath day is the seventh day of the week, right? It's not the first day, so it's not Sunday, it's not Monday, it's not every day like how Christians say, where they say, well, every day is the Sabbath day. God blessed all days. No, he sanctified, and he specifically made the seventh day the day, his day, right? And then also too, as you read in the scriptures, you start to receive the understanding of why the Most High always chooses the number seven. It represents completion. So with that being said, right here, Paul is asking, who changed the truth of God into a lie, right? Because God and also Christ never changed the Sabbath day to Sunday, the first day of the week. But, and that's what that part two is going to be about, is it's going to be about who made that change, because it was the Catholic Church that made that change, not God. It was never ordained by God. We're gonna deal with that in part two, where all my references come out, right? And also too, you start to as you do your research on the change of the Sabbath day, you also see that Sunday worship is the worshiping of a sun god. With that being said, we're gonna jump over to Acts chapter 5 and verse 29. Acts chapter 5 verse 29, it reads, it says, then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men, So one thing that we need to solidify in our understanding, especially when we read the scriptures and we dialogue with one another, is at the end of the day we ought to obey God rather than man. So it doesn't matter what my pastor say. It doesn't matter what the Catholic Church says and how they change things, and whatnot. We go off of what the scriptures say, right? Because that's what the Most High. That's how the Most High communicates with us, right? Is through the scriptures and through His prophets. And so, um, verse 29, I'm going to read it again. It says, Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey God rather than men. And then from there, we're going to jump over to Jeremiah chapter 17. Chapter 17. So Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 5, it says, Thus saith the Lord, Cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from the Lord. So the man that trusts in another man, he doesn't do his own research. He doesn't, seek out the information of the Lord, or even also if, for instance, you got a man who, saved me, right? Say I got a friend who, whatever he says is, I just believe in it. I just take his word for account, and I don't do my own research. And it comes to find out, he's been teaching me lies, or, say for instance, I'm trying to buy a gun from him, right? In most cases, right, especially with dealing with guns off the street, you can run into like a gun that has bodies on it. But then I'm trusting in my homie, and I'm like, hey bro, I want to cop this burner, right? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, for sure, I got you one, don't trip. And I'm like, do it got bodies on it? And he's like, nah, bro, trust me, it ain't got no bodies on it. And I take that gun, you feel me, and nonetheless, say I get caught with that gun, they run the serial number on it, and come to find out, it comes back, it got bodies on it, blam. Now I'm held accountable for those bodies that's on that gun because I'm the one that had it, right? But that'll be my fault because I trusted in that man, and so taking us back to this verse here where it says, "Cursed is the man that trusted in man and make it his flesh his other arm." Yeah, I will be a cursed individual because I'm not I'm not taking accountability, or I'm not even being circumspect enough to see if what this man is saying to me is even true, right? What the Catholic Church, did when they made that change in the Council of Laodicea, right? When they changed the Sabbath day to Sunday, and then now when we are in modern day times, where we're having Sunday worships now, right? I would be uh, um, I would be held accountable for keeping Sunday worship and not Saturday worship, not not worshiping or keeping the Sabbath day holy, right? Because in that time of judgment, when the Most High is, when you standing before the Lord, and He's like, okay, well, um, why you didn't keep the Sabbath holy, right? Why was you worshiping on Sunday? And I'm just like, oh, well, my pastor said, Sunday was the Sabbath day, but right, if I don't do my if I never done my research, the Most High is just gonna be like, well, it's not. You feel me? I clearly said the seventh day. The scriptures say the seventh day. There's multiple different names in different languages that references Saturday as Sabbath, and yet you still chose to worship on Sunday because you decided to trust in your pastor. That's on you. That's not anybody else's fault but yours because you decided not to do your own research. And so that's the whole point I'm trying to convey here, through these scriptures, is do your own research. Yes, you feel me? I'm here as a source to, or an outlet to help you, receive understanding. But at the end of the day, I'm never saying trust in me. Trust in the scriptures and do your own research. That's what I'm saying. And ultimately, you don't want to be like this, right? You don't want to be like Jeremiah 17:5, the cursed man that's trusting in another man. Now, a man of the Lord is different, but then also too, still do your own research. Always be circumspect and prudent, and making your calling sure, right? And then also too, trusting in a man that could, cause your heart to depart from the Most High as well, because once again, Um, um, and I'm speaking about a man, a worldly man, right? A man that's not keeping the commandments or trying to uphold the values and the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, right? That can, trusting in that individual that's not, rooted in the laws, that can also, cause your heart to depart from the Most High as well, because he can be doing something or, teaching you something as a matter of like, it's okay to celebrate Christmas, right? But in the scriptures, it clearly states it, and that's Jeremiah chapter 10. It clearly states Christmas as a custom is not to be celebrated. But, with that being said, we're going to jump over to Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8. And I'm just bringing those little things out just to, show you that, as an example of what you shouldn't do and what you should do. All right. This is Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8. And these are the Ten Commandments, right? It says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Um, Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Okay, so here we see, the instructions that's given in the commandments on how to keep the Sabbath day, right? So on the seventh day, right, Friday sundown till Saturday sundown, right? That's Genesis chapter 1 and 5, the beginning and ending of a day. I'll place that on the screen. We see that um, we have 6 days to do our work, right? So there's no excuse as to why you can't keep the Sabbath holy. America, right? The laws of America, they have particular laws in place on religion, right? Don't get me wrong, Israelites is not a religion, but you can use religious laws to uphold, the laws and statutes and commandments of God, because ultimately the Most High gave us a way so that we can still, you know, keep his laws without an excuse. Nonetheless, you have 6 days to do all the work, the labors you need to do, finance, business transactions, taking your kids to school or whatnot. All of that stuff must take place within the 6 days before the Sabbath, right? And it says, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. This is the day that the Most High, sanctified. He blessed it and he made it his. And he says, in it, there's no work that can be done, right? Um, so if you had, hired servants, like, like a butler, maids, whatnot, they would be required to keep the Sabbath as well. And then, ultimately, like if we was back in our land, the whole country would be shut down on the Sabbath day. And that would be like, the beauty of it, because you would be surrounded by your people keeping the commandments, so everybody would know, okay, all shops must close down on this, right? And um I'm gonna touch more. I'm gonna touch a little bit more on the regulations of the Sabbath, in a little bit actually. So from here we're gonna go to Genesis chapter 1, and we're gonna get verse 5, and we're gonna get verse 8. And this was, going into what I was talking about, Friday sundown till Saturday sundown, right? Because according to the scriptures, a day begins and ends at sundown, and we're gonna read that here. And it says, Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So we see that the evening is begins and ends that day, right? The evening and the morning were the first day. And then, drop down to verse 8, it says, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So we see here the first day, the day ended, began and ended at evening. And then the second day, it began and ended at evening. So we see that out. And then also too, as you get into the holy feast, because I'm gonna cover those too, and lessons to come, is that all of the holy days of the Lord begins and ends at sundown, because according to the Lord and according to creation, as we're reading it, um, a day begins and ends at sundown. So for now, we're gonna jump over to Leviticus chapter 23, and we're gonna read verse 32. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 32. It says, "It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest. And ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. From even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So, the scripture here is bringing out two things, right? For one, this is, is speaking about the Day of Atonement, which is a holy day of the Most High. And then also, right, he's recognizing it as a Sabbath, but that's something that I'll touch on later because um, you have the 7th day Sabbath, and then you have the holy feasts of the Lord, which are recognized as Sabbaths as well. But nonetheless, for the sake of the lesson, we're dealing with the Sabbath here. So we see that at evening we're supposed to celebrate our Sabbath, right? From there, we're going to jump over. So now we're starting to get into the regulations, right? So we're going to jump over to Exodus 31, right? We already know that we're not supposed to do any work on the Sabbath day. And let's see where we get right here. Let me see. So, so on the Sabbath day, there's no cooking, there's no cleaning, there's no working. Remember, all that stuff needs to be done within the 6 days prior to the Sabbath. The Most High, He also gave us a prep day as well, which would be, between Thursday and Friday, right? Thursday sundown till Friday sundown. Once the sun goes down on Friday, it's the Sabbath. So that prep day would end. Nonetheless, uh, verse 12, it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths, right? Sabbaths is plural, meaning that there's more than one, but that's what I was talking about that I'll cover in a later lesson, is the holy feast of the Lord, which the Sabbath day itself is a holy feast. But once again, I don't want to get too far off topic. Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations. So this is another reason why we should keep the Sabbath day holy, is because it is a sign between us and the Most High throughout our generations, meaning that it's supposed to be a sign between us and Him forever. And it says that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you, right? That brought us unto Himself and separated us from the world. Verse 14, ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. Okay, now we're gonna cover that within this chapter, but I'm taking a break just to explain. So this is the judgment for breaking the Sabbath, right? It's you shall surely be put to death. Now, modern day, obviously we can't do that because the judgment, and I believe as we go down it'll cover what that judgment was, is that you would be stoned to death, for breaking the Lord's Sabbath. Like that's how serious it is. Now, modern day, obviously, we have the grace period, which is something that we should be thankful for. Honestly, the grace and the mercy period to get the keeping of the commandments correct. But for somebody who's willingly continually breaking the Sabbath, oh, they don't care, whatever, death, that judgment still plays out. It may not happen right then and there, but at some period, at some point in their time, it'll come, their life will come to a screeching halt. It'll come to an end. um with that being said, it says, ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Right? So that's how serious it is for breaking the Sabbath. Your soul will be cut off. It says 6 days may work be done, but in the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. See, it's a forever covenant between us and the Most High, right? A sign between me and thee. Verse 17, it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. So it's not a sign between the Most High and the world, and that's another cut to, God so loved the world. No, he says it is a sign between me and the children of Israel, right? And if you want to know who the children of Israel are, if you're tuning into the channel on this lesson, go back to my other ones because I cover that topic. It's a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. And so that's the importance of the seventh day, is for us to sanctify it, us to keep it holy, and have that relation with God. But also too, it's a day of rest. It's a day for us to rest from the 6 days of work that we did, right? Um, and also it's supposed to be like in the spiritual aspect of it, is preparing us for that eternal rest that was promised to our forefathers. Where we would be resting and refreshed. Nonetheless, verse 18. Yeah, verse 18, it says, "And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone written with the finger of God." Obviously this law was given by God to Moses, not the law of Moses, right? Not Moses giving us this law because it was Moses' law. So that's another cut to the laws of God is done away with, because God is the one that gave the law, not, or excuse me, the law of Moses is done away with. But nonetheless, 16, Exodus chapter 16, verse 23, it says, "And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning." So this is getting into the prep day, right? That prep day that the Most High is giving us, right? On that 5th day, or excuse me, that on that 6th day that would lead into the Sabbath. So it would be like the 5th day sundown. So the easiest way I could put it to you is like this, right? So that Thursday night, so you have from Thursday night all the way, until the going down of the sun on Friday. So once it's Friday night, that's where the prep day ceases. All right. And so from there, we're going to drop down to verse 24. It says, "And they laid it up till the morning, and Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein." Um, Verse 25, "And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today you shall not find it in the field." So, and that is important too, is that you can eat on the Sabbath day. You just can't cook on the Sabbath day. And that's why that prep day was given. And this scripture, these scriptures I'm giving is covering that. Is that yes, you can eat. So, if you're hungry, if you didn't, cook the day before, and prep for the Sabbath, but you got something in your house, like you got stuff to make you a sandwich, you could fix you a sandwich, right? You're not kindling no fire. Yeah, you can eat you some cereal. You can eat apples. You can eat fruits. That was stuff that Christ came and retaught as well. I believe we'll cover it in here today. I mean, here today in this lesson. But if I don't end up, covering it, I'll bring out some more scriptures in part two. Verse 26, it says, 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. Right, so you got some hard-headed Israelites that went out anyways and was trying to gather some manna, but they couldn't find no manna because the Most High, he sees all that stuff ceased on the 7th day. Right, and verse 28, it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws?" So even back then, in the 40 years in the wilderness, our people was still being disobedient unto the Most High. That's why he's asking Moses, like, okay, how long are y'all gonna continue to refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? And verse 29, it says, "See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days." Right, and so we see that the Most High on that 6th day, the Most High gave double the amount of bread so that our people would be satisfied on the 7th day. But you had some people that didn't gather as much, and that's why they was out there gathering. Nonetheless, um, abide ye every man in his place, let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So on the Sabbath day, if you're not traveling to go keep the Sabbath, say like at a camp, or say if you're not going to keep the Sabbath, holy, keeping the Sabbath holy with family members that's also keeping the Sabbath holy, then stay at home. because there's nothing out there in the world for you. It's nothing but temptation. So, I mean, you can go out there and you could say you walk past like a taco stand, people, hey, offering you tacos, you'd be tempted to buy it. So to avoid having to deal with all that on the Sabbath day, it's best to stay inside, especially if you're not going to, keep it holy somewhere else. Verse 30, it says, so the people rested on the seventh day. Verse 31, and the house of Israel called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. So the manna was sweet bread, pretty much. From there, Ezekiel chapter 20, and hallow my Sabbaths. Excuse me, I'm gonna get up to verse 19. It says, I am the Lord your God. Walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. Right. So the Most High is telling us, I'm your God. Keep my walk in my commandments, right? Or walk in my statutes, keep my judgments, and do them. Right. It's not an option. Do them. He's commanding us. Verse 20, it says, and hallow my Sabbaths. Right. Keep them holy, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God. So if you're ever claiming to have a personal relationship and you're not keeping the commandments, right? If you're not keeping the Sabbath day holy, you have no relationship with God. I mean, that's just bottom line. I'll post the scripture on the screen, actually, but nonetheless. So this is how we have a a relationship with the Most High, right? It's a sign between us and Him is by keeping the Sabbath day holy. That's one way. Verse 21, it says, notwithstanding, the children rebelled against me. They walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall live in them. They polluted my Sabbaths. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Right? So the Most High is saying that because we didn't walk in his statutes and keep his judgments, that he was going to pour out his fury and his anger upon us, right? That's when those curses start to come on us. Whenever you just randomly start having bad stuff happen to you, usually it's because you did something to upset the Most High, which ultimately is you broke one of the commandments. Of course, in this day and age, you don't know him, and that's why we have that grace and that mercy. That's why some consequences ain't as severe as others. But nonetheless, um, you still have to keep the commandments. So it's important to start learning them, right? Jump in your bag and start reading. Blessed is he that readeth, that he may have right to the tree of life. How you get the right to the tree of life is by keeping the commandments. That's Revelations 22 and 14. So and that's New Testament. From here we're gonna jump over to Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 21. Jeremiah 17 and 21. Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Right? So bear no burden, right? Doing homework or doing, homework. I guess you can, I'll explain it like this. So doing homework as far as being a student, so if you got schoolwork, if your kids got schoolwork, on the Sabbath day, they can't do it. They can do it Saturday night, but not Saturday during that time frame from Friday sundown. So from Friday night until Saturday night, right? Once the sun goes completely down on Saturday, it's technically Sunday according to the scriptures, right? According to God, that's how it's supposed to be. Nonetheless, so between the time frame, right? On Saturday, when it's the daytime, there's no work shall be done. No school work, right? So that's that school work I'm talking about. But then also too, in the adult life aspect of it, you have work, right? There's some people that work from home or, in higher positions in the employment field, and they would have, certain projects that their managers or supervisors that's above them would put them or give them, on the weekend and such. On the Sabbath day, you bear not that burden. And then also too, like, there's no workouts, you can't go outside and play football or basketball, no running, no type of burden, anything that'll cause, stress to your body, physically, mentally, health wise, none of that, right? Um, Yeah, so bear no burden on the Sabbath day. From there, we're going to jump over to Jeremiah chapter 23, and we're going to give verse 1 down to 6. And it says, "Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord." So, off top, destruction is coming to those pastors that say, "Oh, this Sabbath day is Sunday. You can do whatever you want to do on Saturday." Destruction is coming unto them, right? Because they're destroying and they're scattering the flocks of the Most High's people. And that's important because we just read over that if a man is supposed to, if a man here's the commandments, we're supposed to do them that we may live, like we have to live in them. And obviously the commandments bring life unto us, so the opposite of that would be bringing death unto us. Nonetheless, verse 2, "Therefore thus saith the Lord God of Israel against the pastors," right, against these Christian pastors, these Catholic pastors, Muslim pastors, whatever you want to call them, all that, right? All these different denominations, against these pastors that feed my people, ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, saith the Lord. So, that payback is coming, to them because they're destroying the people. Verse 3, "And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase." And what was I going down to? I was going down to verse 6, so I'm still going. But just to explain real quick. So the Most High is going to gather the remnant of his flock, and that's important. Go back, read these scriptures, and digest them, right? It's important to pick out these key words, because he's not saying all Israel. So he's saying that there's going to be a remnant of his flock, and that's something that'll be covered at a later topic as well anyways, but nonetheless. So it's also going to show that not everybody's going to be saved. Verse 4, it says, "And I will set up shepherds over them," right? So the Most High is going to set up shepherds, right? Watchmen, right? A shepherd is pretty much a watchman of the flock. So in other words, he's going to set up prophets to watch over the people. And obviously these pastors, or these shepherds that the Most High is setting up, you're going to know who they are, because obviously they'll be keeping the commandments. But he says he's going to set up shepherds to watch them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord. So we ain't, once the Most High, set up these prophets, which, he's beginning to do, as more people you see come up and teach that you need to keep the commandments of God, those are the ones that you need to listen to, but that's that protection. Like once you start, once the flock, starts, flocking to them, Most High said that my people won't be lacking anymore. They won't be lacking in understanding no more, because I'm I'm setting up these men to guide them and lead them to me. Verse 5, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth." That's speaking about Christ. Verse 6, it says, "In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, and this is his name, whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness." Right? And so, with that being said, I've reached my 30-minute mark here. So I may need to make this a 3-part, which I'm not really too tripping on it. That's what the point of these short lessons is for, is to make them in parts, so that you don't have to sit there and watch the whole lesson in one setting. So bear with me. I'm still working on things. My schedule is kind of tight right now, but once I'm done with all this moving that I'm doing, I'm gonna be able to really start dishing out these lessons. Nonetheless, thank you guys for stopping by. Part 2 will be coming up. We ended here on Jeremiah 23. We'll be picking up in the next lesson in Mark 7, 6, and 9. Who knows? It maybe a fourth part because I want to get the scriptures out the way, and then I want to just have a whole lesson on, you know, the references, just showing the history of how, you know, the Sabbath day got changed, and how, you know, in different languages you see that Saturday in another language is, you know, referenced as Sabbath. Like in Spanish you have Sabado, which means Saturday, you know, and then you got the Hebrew Sabbath, which means, you know, the seventh day, Saturday, ultimately. Nonetheless, I'm going to cover all that. Thank you guys for stopping by, tuning in. Kwam Yasharala, Rise Israel, and I'll catch you guys in the next lesson. Peace.
Wow, Father, you really are strong. What if these Hebrews wake up and realize that I've been lying? That they not from Africa but from Zion? That's why I'm crying, cause I know what's in store for me, for destroying history.